Forest View. My name is Pumi Moyo. I am part of the leadership team here at Forest View. And what I really love, at least one thing I love about the church, out of many, is that we are very transparent about our finances, or the church finances. And if you receive the email blast shared for us every week, you should also receive the monthly blast that share our financials. So the financial report that we send out basically tracks to our budget for that year, and it also compares it to what it would have been for that same month in previous years. In 2022, we basically had a general offerings received at $656,000 a year, and our expenses were at $637,000. That is basically our general offerings were 3% more than our expenses. That gives us a surplus of $19,000. Normally, people ask us, "What do you do with the surplus?" And most of the time, the simple answer is that we use it as working capital. So for those years where our expenses are more than our general offerings, we basically use that to pay off our expenses. And sometimes we use it to pay down debt. But if you look at that line item as cash at bank, you don't see the full picture. You really should be looking at it at a balance sheet level. So right now, if you look at our current liabilities are more than our current assets. And that basically means that we have net debt of around $335. So you can't really look at financials as at a line item level. You have to dig deeper. And in this as part of this report that we're sending out to you, we'll also have a bigger financial statement that you can look at. We'll have a report, we'll have a line item of what it means for each of the line items, what the expenses were in 2022, breaking it down, and then also giving you a budget for the 2023 and where the increases will be and what you can expect as your net expenses and your general offerings for the year. Now, how do we set our budget for the year? We normally look back at 2022, in this particular case, the previous year, which is 2022. If our expenses came in right now as it's sitting at $637, basically our treasurer, Brian, will go back to any of our leads, our pastoral staff, and give them their line items. So if it's missions, if it's Kids View, they'll basically know what they spent last year. And they'll have to project for the coming year what they anticipate to be their expenses, whether there's going to be decreases or increases in certain areas. And then Brian, our treasurer, will then take that and summarize it for the church at a budget level to say, okay, so in this particular year, we anticipate our expenses to come in $729. So that 729 is where we're sitting with our expected expenses this year. And what we do is, because we are a church, we don't make a profit, we also set our target offerings that we're expecting for the year to the same amount. So we want to break even. We always want to break even. So this year, what I wanted to highlight are the expenses. Our expenses last year was $637. This year, we're anticipating them to be at $729. And we obviously have an increase of 14%. I want to highlight those two areas that are causing that increase, and one is the payroll expenses. If we remember, we had Master's start in 2022. She only basically worked half the year. So she was in our payroll for half the year. But this year, she's going to be in payroll for the full year. So that is the increase on payroll. The other part of the increase in payroll is because we have to have annual, just like everybody that has a job, you have annual escalations on your wages. So we've accounted for that. The one new line item that we've added to payroll is really like a spiritual retreat for our staff, for them to take care of their being and also what they do, their dues. So we want to make sure that they're constantly taking care of their spiritual health. And with that, we also had an increase in Nextdoor. So Nextdoor is another about 97% of increase from what it came in expenses last year. And that increase is really what we're going to be hiring a part-time staff for administrative reasons, to help us with new sources of funding for Nextdoor, also to help us with revamp our website. And the last thing is also for them to help us with our volunteer, just registration, some volunteers and gathering some volunteers. So those are our two biggest expenses for the year. But That also means that our general offerings have to increase to 729, to the same amount for us to break even. And that is an 11% increase from what we received last year, which was 656,000 in 2022. What does it mean for us for the rest of the year? It basically, where we are today is we've received 172,000. That's basically from January to April, year to date, we're sitting at 172. Compared to last year, for the same period, we basically are ahead by 3.4%. And what does it mean for the rest of the year? It means we will be expecting to receive 557,000 for us to be able to pay our expenses. So as we always say every year, our ways to give at Forest View is forestviewchurch.ca/give. So we would appreciate for the church to continuously pray on their giving, the tithes and offerings for us to be able to meet our expenses for the year. I normally start off with a scripture as an anchor for our financial giving, but today I decided to do it last. And our scripture for today is Galatians 6:9, and it reads, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." So I want to encourage everyone in the congregation for you to consider never tire in doing good, because in due time you will reap a harvest. So let's continue to be good stewards and take care of what has God given us as Forest View Church, as part of our church. Let's take care of our staff, and let's take care of this building and maintenance. Thank you very much.